Today's topic is how to build a cost-efficient EKS environment from day one. Yes, day one, kicking things off and starting. Our guest today is Roi Ravhon, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Finout.io. Now, Roi has, after more than 12 years of experience of DevOps and engineering, including 6 years at Logs.io. Roi became an entrepreneur to solve the pains that he experienced himself as a director of core engineering. And you know what? How about a little bit of personal information about Roi? You know, he's a big fan of beer. That's a plus. Rock and metal. I'm going to like this conversation. Please join me in welcoming Roi to the show. Roi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, John, for having me here.
Roi, I gave a little bit of backstory on you. This is the speaker bio that we go through to kind of do your experience. I'm going to give you another minute, maybe highlight some of the things in your career, but I really want to jump into our topic of EKS and really that cost efficient, because we're talking FinOps, we're talking cost efficiency, we're talking cloud. I mean, this seems to be the biggest thing now. So why don't you give everybody a little bit more info on you and let's get started.
Sure. Like many other Israeli founders, I started my way in the Israeli intelligence, spent there a few years, some say too many. After that, I joined Logs.io, as you mentioned before, and Logs.io, I eventually became the one in charge of the entire infrastructure of the company. And in there, I had to balance between keeping the company's SLA and making sure that we always have the right capacity and we can just make everything go fast and smooth and support everything, which usually required over provision stuff and like make sure that we're petted in the right places. But I was also in charge of cloud financial management, which usually means doing exactly the opposite. So we need to make sure that we're as efficient as we can be, and that we're always optimized, and we have like the minimum requirements, and we can auto scale really quick. And the balance between the two started to become like a real burden and something that takes lots of our times, and we failed answering what we thought should be simple questions like AWS bill is up by 5%. Is this good or not? Or out of the entire 50 different usage-based price software services that we're using, how much do we pay for each customer, or for each service, or for each business unit? And that was the catalyst for us to just drop it all and start Finout.
One of the challenges with cloud is that usually if you're not following the FinOps culture, is that one group is deploying out a bunch of stuff and they want to go fast, and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go with my traditional model of deploying out and over provisioning, like you indicated. And then there's you tightening the reins, like, come on, bring down the cost. Stop using that extra one. You only need a little bit less. And then out of this came Finout. Now let's talk about Finout and how it relates to EKS.
So what Fin does in general concept is we have a concept that we call a mega bill. A mega bill is our ability to ingest costs from all different cloud cost providers. It can be all clouds, and also third-party services like Datadog, like Snowflake, like Databricks. And once we have all costs in one place, it's really just one data set that holds all the cost information. It's not like different parts of the application, but really everything in one place. And the first thing that we come to talk about Kubernetes cost management and in general is that AWS speaks in a very different language than ourselves, right? Because AWS is charging us by the instance, but we actually running pods and deployments and namespaces. So suddenly we need some kind of translator between the two. So essentially what we did is we added Kubernetes support natively into the mega bill, which means that it doesn't matter on which cloud your system is running and your Kubernetes is running. So it can be EKS, it can be AKS, it can be GKE. So it really doesn't matter as long as we have access to any sort of metric platform. So it can be Datadog, it can be Prometheus. So without installing an agent, we can just connect with external sources in order to see what's the usage of each Kubernetes resource within the cluster, and then allocate the proportional cost out of it from that megabill. So within that, we have everything in one place, and then we can start to have all sorts of advanced FinOps capabilities like showback and chargebacks, and create the budgets and anomalies and virtual allocation for everything, and cost optimization all on top of that build with native Kubernetes support within that.
Roi, now I thought Kubernetes was supposed to reduce some of the complexity and the over provisioning and the resources and ease in deployment into cloud. But now it's gotten a little more complex in order to how to like the cost efficiency of it. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing and that Finout is trying to handle and does handle throughout the progress of managing that environment or managing that cost?
So Kubernetes is a blessing and a curse, all at once, right? So it adds like operational overhead when running a cluster, but it solves deployments and solves high availability, and like it solves so many things, but it also opens so many other things in terms of like operational overhead, and it does the same with cost. So suddenly the cost like reports that we're getting from the cloud provider are meaningless at once, and we need to have like another tool that can translate between those, and like all the capacities that we build as an organizations. So now we can't budget anymore because budgeting is part of Kubernetes, and we can't report external for external auditors based on our cost because it's again in Kubernetes, and like things start to get more complicated. I think most of the like developers' mentality remained the same. Same as we were provisioning a slightly higher service or server than we used to, just so we need to have some kind of buffer. So we're doing the same with Kubernetes requests, right? So I'm not really sure how much my service is gonna need. So let's say 4 gig. I'm not sure how many cores am I gonna need. Let's save 2. When starting, it's perfectly okay, right? So you're not sure what's the capacity that you use. Start with something, but we failing on doing the optimize phase, right? So we never get back to our services and say, all right, this is the actual baseline that I'm using, so I need to adjust my request accordingly. Same thing as we happened on right sizing Kubernetes, like EC2 instances happening on right sizing Kubernetes pods. So we always over provision, and we need to use some kind of tool or do it manually in order to reduce. So tools like Finout can help find the actual usage or of each deployment and recommend those right sizing decisions per pod in order to make sure that that we're always optimized. And this can sum up to a lot of money. Like, I'm always saving another gig, and I'm talking about thousands of different deployments. It's add up, and it's became huge, and it's very important to keep on optimizing.
So everybody, real quick, just a recap. Today we're talking about how to build a cost-efficient EKS environment from day one. We're talking with Roi Ravhon, the CEO and co-founder of Finout. Now, Roi, I'm not sure if you've seen this, and I've seen this on LinkedIn and Twitter. There's this GIF where the guy's walking up to heaven to Kubernetes, and then all of a sudden the flights fall down into hell because there's all these different components and add-ons to it. I'll have to say, have you seen this yet?
No, but I can imagine.
So all those additional add-ons. Now, Finout is helping you analyze and do the actual usage of the environment. Here's the problem that I see when you go to cloud and then you're using EKS. You're using that manages that cloud is charging you by the instance type. So you had the visibility with cloud, which is very complex as it is now, because it's so dynamic. And now you're throwing Kubernetes on top of your cloud. And now you need to make sure that you're managing the instances and the rights to that. And it gets without a platform to help you visually see what you're using and recommend and do, I think it becomes a cost-efficient nightmare.
It is. Like, just think of the amount of parameters that you have, right? So it's like I'm not sure if you learned computer science or not, but there's like the NPC problem, and there's the famous bin stack problem, and finding the right kind of physical infrastructure that can host our unknown, Kubernetes utilization based on like numerous factors, because we need to take into account both CPU and memory and network, so that even disk, but this like it's easier because they're touchable in cloud environments. So we have to start like making sure that we reserve enough capacity for our pods, and we select the right types of instance families. But then you come to another level of complication, because from time to time, you can start to, for example, if you can run my workloads on spot instances, so I have to choose like 10 different instance families that I'm always choosing the cheapest one. And you need to hope that the cheapest one is going to be, the one that you can utilize the most. And it depends on the use case, because you have like specific pods that are, CPU heavy, and there's pods that are memory heavy. And you need to make sure that, you always selected the right patterns. So like the levels of complexity keeps on adding up. And the more you think of it, the more complex it gets. And there's a bunch of different corners. So, like having designing to scale and really understanding your use case and understand the technology behind the scenes and how like it reacts to what you're doing, and measure. Like start from day one is super important. When designing large scale Kubernetes deployments that can really have significant impact on your financial viability.
Roi, real quick, I want to let everybody know Roi's going to give us his 3 tips, right? We're going to have 3 tips following shortly, and a recommendation. And I like things that come in 3, so I'm so glad that he's outlined these. Talk to me about implementing Finout and how it works for a customer's environment, like the permission levels, the integration. Do I need an agent? What type of metrics? And, like really, when can I start to see some cost efficiency or savings?
So integrating Finout is really easy. We always made sure that we'll be the path of least resistance for our customers, and taking more burden on ourselves. So when you start to work with Finout, first thing to do is connect to one or more cloud vendors. So if it's Amazon, you need to connect to the cost and usage report. If it's Google, you need to connect to BigQuery. So each cloud, we're selecting, the natural path for that cloud. Always with read-only permissions. Always like very easy in about 5 minutes of integration. So that's the commodity part. But now when we're talking about Kubernetes level access, so we need to have visibility that we just can't get from the cloud provider itself. So we thought about do we want to go down the path of query CloudWatch metrics like many other vendors do? And we decided no, because AWS is the only one with CloudWatch, and it's so expensive that it's a hidden cost that people are often overlooked. We saw like tens of thousands of dollars for medium-sized company just by Kubernetes the CloudWatch cloud utilization. It's insane. Then we had the chance of installing an agent, but installing an agent is a very intrusive kind of operation, and again we wanted to reduce friction. So we thought about it more, and we figured out so most customers already have some kind of engine monitoring their environment. So if they're Datadog customers, so they have their Datadog engines, or if they're just plain Kubernetes users, they probably have Prometheus set up. It's just one Helm chart. It's common. Everyone does that. So instead of installing any agent, we can just connect to the already existing agent. So if it's Datadog, we connect to the APIs, and if it's Prometheus, we can just export the bunch of PromQL queries in a continuous manner and send them to somewhere we can read it. And this gives us the full picture that we need in order to create Kubernetes level cost. So now we have the actual cost from the cloud vendor. So it's not an estimated usage. It's not something we extrapolate. It's actually the full type of cost. So after discounts, after EDPs, after whatever, and then we can take the cost utilization from the cluster and just show it in Finout. We don't charge for additional clusters. We don't charge for agents. We don't charge for anything. As long as the data is already in Finout, it's unlimited, which allows us the ability to just monitor very large scale Kubernetes clusters and environment, and allow engineers to get the full picture of whatever they're spending across all resources, across all labels and pod labels and node labels without any limitation.
Roi, Finout is a certified FinOps platform or solution. how does that help you not only, or actually help your customers in their implementation of EKS or the visualization or the recommendations that you make throughout the entire process?
Um, so we're a big fan of the FinOps
So am
Foundation.
I. So am I.
We constantly sponsor their events. Yeah, we're attending every event that we can, and we really like their approach on how we can how can we codify FinOps and how to integrate it. So when we designed Finout, we designed it with FinOps way of mind, in how to tackle stuff. So FinOps has that capabilities, and Finout has an answer to every single capability within the framework, and it's very important for us, to take customers through journeys. So when they start running at Finout, like they know that they can get the basic coverage of just start with visibilities, and then we can start to to allocate costs, and we can manage shared costs, and we can start to optimize, and we can look for anomalies. So we can start to track that those kinds of features as companies goes by, and we're super thrilled to get acknowledged from the FinOps Foundation that we're matching those capabilities. So it got us the badge of certified FinOps platform that is very prestigious something to achieve, and we're super proud of having to build Finout in a like relatively quick time frame, and getting to this point that people can trust us for implement and help them implement FinOps within their
Everybody,
organization.
today's topic is how to build a cost-efficient EKS environment from day one. We're talking with Roi Ravhon, and really specific around EKS, the cost-effective, the implementation, and we're going to get to the top 3 tips that he's going to provide us shortly on how to implement a cost-effective solution from day one. We're talking about Finout and how it's a FinOps certified platform, but also how they approach each and monitor and pull all the metrics and how they integrate with all the native platforms. Roey, let me ask you the question around I've got Finout, I've implemented it. How long before I start to realize any savings? Is it, hey, in about a couple days after I've analyzed the metrics, we're good to go? Or can I immediately realize what the savings I'm going to be able to potentially get?
So it really depends on your maturity, as a FinOps culture usually. So if you never did anything, so within 2 minutes of logging into Finout for the first time, you can get into our cost guard or cost optimization suite and see tons of savings. We can help you, right size instances. We can help you right size Kubernetes. We can help you commit to buy saving plans, buy Rois, right size RDSs, find idle usage, change technologies wherever it's cheaper and doesn't change your business logic. So it really didn't matter of how much time and effort did you spend on doing that, but cost optimization is always
Oh, you just
effort, right?
answered
So
my
you
next
always
question.
have
Like, is
more
this
stuff
once
to
and done? Or, I mean, do I keep doing this?
Again, so it really depends on what you're doing. So if you're using an automated tool to buy RIs for you, so it's a once and done, and then you don't have that magic card again, right? So you can't buy more RIs than 100%. So you need to start to think on tackling the real issues. So after we have the low hanging fruits, the easy stuff to do, most organizations start to face the reality that their cost is still growing unproportionately to the revenue, and there's no amount of magic in the world that can start and save them, right? So this is when we need to start to design for profitability. And when we're talking about designing for profitability, it meaning that we need to look at architectural decisions. We need to look within and understand, using allocations, using unit economics, using cost per customer kind of views, what is actually our cost centers, what actually is driving our revenue factors and our margins, and what can we do in order to optimize, and where we should really take engineering facts into consideration, and how we can get engineers to pay attention to cost, as first party metrics. So they deployed new code and they broke the SLA, they're going to talk about it, right? So if they deployed new code and they broke the financial structure of the company, they need to talk about it as well. The issue now is they just don't know about it. Best case, they figure out in 3 months that something is broken, but it's not an immediate feedback loop like it is with metrics. And we really believe that, to gain like real cost savings and optimization in modern companies, like this is the way. Like FinOps has an amazing framework in how to do that and how to get into those phases. And optimizing servers and right sizing whatever is just one aspect out of like 30 different things that you need to do. So it's a full-on blown-up journey, and Finout is kind of tool that can help take you throughout that stuff, all the way from cost optimization, the easy stuff, and all the way to the
Roy, I
advanced
love how
capabilities.
you're using all the FinOps language and culture tied behind that. And obviously, the name of your company, Finout. I mean, I think it just ties nice together. Okay, I'm going back to my implementation. I implemented it. I can see my savings. I can see some of the stuff. And depending on my FinOps culture and between the crawl, walk, run phases and how fast I can implement through all of their three different phases, you do the work, you just recommend the work, can you automate some of the work, or can you help out with that process?
So we said it to the prospects as well. Like, tool is not going to solve all your problems. Tool is an enabler to like implement FinOps within your organization. So, but just buying a tool won't gonna change anything. So there's organizational work that need to be done. You have to, to want to be able to do that. You want to change the way that you think, and you want to have like organizational buy-in from your engineers, from management, from everything, in order to start to implement FinOps. And this is extremely more important than buying a tool. When you start doing that, you're gonna figure out that a tool can help you, empower your work and do it more efficiently, and and do those kinds of stuff. But a tool is not a must for FinOps, but implementing FinOps is a must for implementing FinOps, obviously. So we can help companies, understand that, and we can help companies and support them in their journey, like wherever they want to achieve and how can they grow. But we can't do the organizational works for them. Like, we're not FinOps implementers or whatever it may be. We're a service company that can give a tool product companies, right? That can give a tool that can help support that journey. We also have when you talk to FinOps support, you talk to certified FinOps practitioners. Like, we have folks that understand the language, understand the terminology, and really can help people, with the right visualization, and help them like solve and tackle those kinds of stuff. But FinOps is something that needs to start within, and a tool is something that follows.
I like how you have the FinOps when you call in, you're talking to FinOps practitioners, means they understand exactly is the culture behind it, the methodology. Roi, let's jump into really those top three things that you have for implementing a cost efficient EKS environment from day one. What's your first one?
So first thing is measure. Like, don't wait to measure. Like, measure from the get-go. Like, if you're gonna transition stuff to Kubernetes, pick the right technology that's gonna be there to support your transition, because figuring out like in retrospective what changed without having the history and without making understand like what really happened is gonna be extremely more difficult to do. And I really recommend like starting to measure from day one when you're just starting with Kubernetes. So if it's whether it's a migration or a new company that's going to start, but pick the right tool and don't wait for it to be too late.
So you're taking the measurements to pick the right tool. You're utilizing Finout to have those recommendations for picking the right, or are you saying before the implementation or at the implementation time to start analyzing and pick the right ones?
Yeah, so as part of the implementation, you need to have a tool that can monitor your clusters. So if you're going to just migrate stuff onto Kubernetes, but you can analyze their cost and you can understand like anything that is happening, you're gonna end up finishing that Kubernetes migration, and it's probably going to cost you a lot more than what it cost you before migrating to Kubernetes, and it's going to be very hard to understand why. So it's something that's going to need to accompany your migration, and not that, all right, so we finished Kubernetes migration and now we can see what's the cost, and now we need to start to implement the tool. Like, the benefit of implementing a tool is going to be diminished significantly. So I think it's something that should be part of the migration, and not something you need to be thought.
Oh, it sounds like the traditional, typical approach for like cloud and some kind. Oh, we're going to implement it, and all of a sudden your cost is going out, and then they implement some tools afterwards, rather than doing it at the time of it, where they can get the most cost efficient out of your EKS environment. So everybody, real quick, I want to do some highlights. Finout is actually going to be at KubeCon Amsterdam, the 18th to the 21st. Make sure you get there, see them at the booth. Roi, you're going to be there, right?
Yes, I am. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a big
I'm
team from Finout.
disappointed that I won't be there, but I will be there in spirit. I'll probably be doing some virtual events, highlighting it, doing some social stuff for it. I haven't been to Amsterdam yet, but I am looking forward to next time. Also, I've got an exciting offer happening for everybody shortly after. It's going to be 10% off for the yearly contract, and it's only going to be available after the launch of this podcast for 3 months. Stay tuned. The link will be in the description below, on the screen, up here, over here, wherever it may be. Roi, let's get to tip number 2.
Tip number 2, right size. So don't trust developers with the requests that they're just asking, but actually validate it. So developers are not going to reduce resources on their own, from their own initiatives. They're going to say that they're going to do it, and let's just deploy it and move on. But then they're going to move on to the next Jira ticket, and it's just not going to happen. So right side, make sure that deployments are optimized and efficient, meaning that you're requesting the same amount of resources that you're actually usually using. It's a matter of risk factor, but you can risk a pod eviction if you use more memory, but at least you're going to save so much money that's probably going to be worth it. So it really depends on the type of the application and how safe you want it to be. But always right size whatever you can, because it can be a hell a lot of money and can make Kubernetes just unprofitable at all because of those it's another gig here, another gig there. It adds up to be something that's hugely and vastly
Roi, if I only had a tool that had it visually into the metrics on what I was utilizing. There's a little hint. Right sizing. That's actually very interesting because thinking about it, just going from the developer perspective, there's no initiative to make the instance smaller, right? They have an SLA. They want to make sure it's up and running. They don't want to be called in the middle of the night. It's the old mentality of I want the beefiest server. I want the best thing. What you realize then, and just like you indicated, is that saving a gig here, some memory, some disk space, all those resources are very key into saving your cost down the road. 1 gig here, not too bad. But if you can save 1,000 gigs, whatever it may be, that cost adds up over time. Right sizing is just so overlooked. It's talked about so much, but I think it's just overlooked in the environment where people are like, yeah, I'm going to get to it. Exactly like you said, I'm going over to my next Jira ticket and I'll move on. I'll get back to that later. And later never happens.
It's so easy to do in Kubernetes. It's so much harder to actually drop down an instance and change its size, and that's significantly harder. Kubernetes just change the YAML and move on.
And I think not only does Kubernetes allow you to do that, cloud allows you to do that, but if you let Kubernetes manage it and you have your pods and you have your instances doing their efficiency and set, and you let it manage it, I think that's really actually key for a lot of the cost savings around. So, Roi, let's talk about tip number 3.
Labels. So this is often overlooked, but it's same as you're gonna tag your cloud resources, and now everyone knows that you need to tag your cloud resources. So you need to label your pods as well, and any Kubernetes resource that you have. Which labels do you need? Derives from the business question that you think that you're gonna ask yourself. Mature companies need to decide on a labeling schema and a labeling strategy that they need to have on their clusters, and then enforce developers into do that. To give companies heads up on that, I was part of a working group in the FinOps Foundation that analyzed it and recommended a default label schema or something that our companies can start with. So it's available under the FinOps Foundation website, and it's a great place to start to get inspiration of what you should be labeling and what questions you're going to ask yourself in the future, and to make sure to implement that labeling structure within Kubernetes is going to save a lot of headache in the future and going to allow you for easier cost allocations in the future. And even if you don't think you need it now, at least starts with the basics, so you'll have something, and then you can always revise it. You can always change. You use external tools to map it better, but still something like the basic stuff should be there, and it's gonna
Roi,
save a
I
lot in the
can't
future.
believe you mentioned labeling or tags. That was not even on my list, but that is really one of my top things I talk about all the time is to implement a tagging structure. And I think you have to identify this from a business perspective. What are some of the labels? Chargeback, showback. I mean, how are you supposed to do this in an environment? FinOps actually talks about all that chargeback,
Mhm.
showback, and doing a proper business driven label approach on how you do. And I can't believe you mentioned labeling or tags. I mean, that you won me with that. That should be number one for me. It's one of those things where you think about that. Do you need it? I'll implement this later. How do I do it? But you can actually do a whole bunch of billing metrics, a whole bunch of reports based off of the labels. Really, before I wrap things up, because I got a couple of things. Really, what sets Finout aside from other solutions that are out there?
So we built Finout to be the modern solution that we wanted to use. After using the market leaders. So we took years of experience in the market, even before it was called FinOps, and just implemented it into what we wanted to build. So the product is not limited almost at all. So you can build any visualization that you like. You can use cost from you can have one dashboard that's going to show you your Datadog cost together with the Kubernetes cost and EC2 cost. You can start to mix and match between different stuff within one query. So you can a query on a specific Kubernetes AWS tag, and then look at the Kubernetes deployments that are part of it. So you can really do whatever you want in a very open platform. Our ability to create virtual tagging is very, very complicated and comprehensive. So you can take a bunch of like a Kubernetes namespace, all instances that start with a specific letter, an entire AWS organization, and a few instances from Azure, and assign it to a team. Then you can take a bunch of team and assign it to a department. Really start to build that showback tree all within Finout, and everything is live. It doesn't have to be like pre-processed or post-processed. Like everything, once you change it, you can see the entire history of the virtual tag you created, and those virtual tags are living within Finout as a basic concept. So now you can see anomalies based on the virtual tagging you created. So you can get anomaly per team and not anomaly per AWS service. You can create budgets, including Kubernetes access as well. So you can have budgets on those virtual tags and on every Kubernetes selector or whatever cost selector within Finout. You can add any type of cost that you want into your platform. So whether we support it natively or not, you have the ability and capabilities to add it. You can create unit economics into every every visualization that you have in order to start to measure price per event, transaction, gig, user, whatever, instead of like $1 million for AWS. And using those unit economics, you can get all the way to cost per customer directly within Finout, including revenue integration, meaning that you can actually show finance what's the gross margin for each individual customer with all metadata tags that are available in the CRM, all within one platform. On top of it all, we're very slick. We're very fast, like the fastest solution in the market with query performance, and we're the cheapest.
What is the difference between some of the open source or free tools? I mean, can I do some of the same things or get some of the same results? Or is it just easier to like, I mean, I'm imagining that with the free and open source one, there's a lot of integration, a lot of customization that I need to do. But really, can I get the same results with them?
So there's a kind of one open source, right? The open cost, which is very similar to the cube cost in many aspects. It's amazing. I support this initiative. We even want to see how we can contribute to it. Like I'm all for open sourcing and helping anyone, especially the Finance Foundation, to develop like standards and best practices to the world. But eventually, it's it's same with open source in different tools, right? So you can install Elasticsearch or you can buy Datadog, right? So it's not going to be the same experience. So you can hustle, you can do that, all the stuff, but it's a solution that you need to manage. And instead of solving the problem, it starts to become like another one of your problems. And then you need to start to patch that, and you need to install it, you need to monitor it. So Finout offers like a complete managed service experience with an entire development team that is running to build the best product in the market. Like we're VC-backed company. We have all incentives to build the best stuff, and you can get some stuff in open source, but it's not going to be the same kind of experience.
All right, everybody, it's time to wrap up the show, but I want to give you some information. Finout will be at KubeCon Amsterdam on the 18th to the 21st. Yes, of April. It's happening here really shortly. Also, I've got an awesome and exciting offer for you, 10% off for a yearly contract. It's only available for 3 months after this podcast release, so mark down the date and your clock because you only have 3 months to act on it. All right, everybody, time to wrap things up. Roi Ravhon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, John, so much for having me. I had a blast.
Okay, everybody. So this has been an exciting topic around how to build a cost-efficient EKS environment from day one. Now, we were talking with Roi Ravhon, the CEO and co-founder of Finout.io. I really appreciate you joining me for this exciting and very informative conversation. Roi, have yourself a good one.
You as well.
All right. My name's John Myer. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify because guess what? We're out of here.